Welcome to my HTML project series, projects you can create with using only HTML. We previously studied HTML together in my HTML course for absolute beginners video, and now I want to give you guys even more practical experience using the language. If you followed my HTML course for absolute beginners video, you should be ready to handle the upcoming projects that will be made using only HTML. If you haven't yet seen the video or don't know any HTML yet, then please click the link here or in the description box and learn HTML and grow from zero to expert level. Before we start, I would really love it if you guys could like this video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. It genuinely supports me and fuels the growth of coding fundamentals, which will let me keep producing great and free educational content for all you guys. Today, for our first project, we will be creating something that most of us have filled out online countless times. A questionnaire. Many of us have signed up for services, filled in profiles, and even applied for jobs using such questionnaires. Today, we will create a job application questionnaire using HTML. You will go from this to this. We will learn a large number of HTML elements, attributes, and input types in this project. So if you watch till the end of the video, you will have learned a large amount of practical HTML that you'll be able to apply immediately to your own projects. We will learn how to create placeholders, text field questions, radio buttons, checkboxes, text boxes, submit and reset buttons, and even more. So let's get started. So I will be using VS Code for this project. So make sure to open a file and create a file to write your code. I've labeled it index.html. So let's start our HTML file. So let's get rid of this. And in order to set up the file, you can press exclamation mark and press enter. And this will set up your HTML file with all the basic essentials. So let's connect this to the live server. And now let's add a title to our questionnaire. So let's call it job application questionnaire. And now the tab should say job application questionnaire. Great. So to create a questionnaire, a key element we will use is the form element, inside of which we will include all questions and all of the content for this questionnaire. So inside your body element, you will put in form. Great. And now let's create a heading and title it job application. Great. But now I want it centered. So how do we do that? We type the style attribute and then type in text align and center. Great. Then let's now add an introductory paragraph to introduce the questionnaire and its purpose. So top tip, if you don't have your content ready to post on your website, then you can put in filler text using lorem ipsum. So let's say you want a paragraph of 25 words. You can type lorem 25, press enter, and then 25 words will come up there. But let's say you want more than 25 words. Let's say you want 100 words. You can type lorem 100, and now 100 words will come up on your website. So this is what you could do if you don't have your content ready. So now I actually have a paragraph prepared for this. So let me bring that out. So let me copy and paste this and put it there. Awesome. So the next issue that I would like to do is to add a color to this background to make this page a bit brighter. So we can go to the body element here and add the style attribute, type background color, and you can pick any color which you want, like tomato, turquoise, etc. So let's look at tomato, what it looks like. So I don't like this color, and I don't think it's suitable for our purposes. So I went ahead and chose another color here, and let's see what this one looks like. So it's blue. It's a lighter color, and I think it's more suitable for our design. And if you hover over RGBA, you're able to select any other color you want. So you can make it green, yellow, whatever color you want, and play around with that. Next, with any job application, you will have to enter in your personal information. So let's create a special section for this to differentiate it from the rest of the information. And here we will use the field set and legend elements. So field set, and that will create a box, and then the legend element will add a title to the box. So let's call it personal information. So as you can see, now we have the box and the title around all the information that we want to collect. So now let's add some text inputs into this box. So firstly, you would want to include the label in order to give a label to the text box. And we will use the label element. So the first thing that I would like is their full name. And then we would want an input in order to create the text box. So you put input, type, and then text. And that would be it. So it creates a full name label and the box ready to put the input in. However, I would want the full name to appear above the box. So in order to make them each take up a line individually, you would put in a line break. So BR, BR, and now they appear above each other. Great. But I also want to include a placeholder, so this text box isn't just empty. So let's say I wanted to have your name written as a placeholder. So how you do that? You go into the input element and you would type in placeholder and you would enter in whatever you want. I will put in your name. And it appears there. Great. So there are also other values we can put for this type attribute. And the next box we will include is password. So again, put label and label it password. And then we would again use the input element and type. And then instead of text, we would put password. Great. And again, we would put line breaks to each of these. So notice how when you type in inside the full name box, it's just letters. But however, when you type it into the password text field actually hides your letters, just like on other websites when you enter in your password. Great. So now we will include another text box. Let's call it profession. Okay. So we can just copy and paste this. Let's call it profession. But it will be a text instead. Great. And let's say that we know that the majority of people applying for this job will be students. So we might want to have an automatic value that's already in the profession box to make it easier for our applicants so they don't have to type it out all the time. If 95% of the people applying will be students, it would make sense to have that box kind of pre-filled already with a value. So you would go to input and then you would type in value and then you would type in student. So now the box is already filled in. Great. And now we'll add in three more text boxes here. So firstly, we will add email, and instead of password, it will be email. And then we will add a date of birth, and the type would be date. And we could also add telephone number. And the type here would be tel. Great. So for the date of birth, we would want to add a placeholder so that people would submit the information in the correct format, because otherwise it might not accept it. So we would type in placeholder, and then we would want them to submit it like this: the date, month, dash, and the year. So interestingly, this is displayed on the Safari browser. You can go to Google Chrome and see how it is displayed on Google Chrome and decide which one you prefer. Leave a comment down below in which browser you prefer to do your coding in, because they're displayed differently sometimes. Great. So now we've finished the first section of our job application. And as you can see, it's all laid out in the nice field set box. Great. So now let us add some radio buttons. So radio buttons allow you to choose only one option from a list of choices. So this button is suited to questions where the answers are mutually exclusive. So you cannot pick more than one answer. So for example, here, we might ask our candidates which role are they applying for, and we will assume that they are only able to apply to one of those roles. So what you would do here is first of all type in a paragraph, and you could say, what role are you applying for? And I would like to make this bold as well. So style, font weight, and then bold. Awesome. Great. And let's see what that would look like. Now let's type in our radio buttons. So again, you would use input and type and then radio. And we will also use name in order to make them all the radio buttons part of the same group. So name, and let's call it role. Okay. And let's add a label to give our first option, which is internship. And then let's add a line break. And then let's do the same thing two more times. Internship, graduate position, and then associate. Great. So let's look at what that would look like. So as you can see, you can only pick one of these options. So you're not able to select more than one. And what if we know that the majority of people who will be applying we'll choose the graduate position. So you can include a checked sign in order to make sure that this is the one that's automatically selected. So you go on to the graduate position input here, and then you would type in checked. And now let's see what happens. So you can see that the graduate position is automatically selected. And this, again, is just to make the user experience a bit more friendlier, depending on your form and your own organizational needs. The next element that we would like to add onto our questionnaire is the select element. So the select element will let us choose from many different options. But before that, let's add one more paragraph of information to make the separations a bit more clear. So let me add in a new paragraph. And let's create a question where you can pick from a number of different options. So I will type in, first of all, a label and call it preferred location. And let's again make it bold. Font weight, bold. Great. And now we'll pick the select element. And we need to have several different options that you're able to choose from. So we need the option element next. And then let's put Tokyo. And then let's give them 5 options in total. So Tokyo, New York, Beijing, Paris, and Frankfurt. And let's see what that would look like. Great. So you can see all the different options and you can pick one of them. And again, let's say that the majority of applications will end up applying to the New York office. So you can go on option and then you can type in selected. So now New York will be the default option that's chosen when the page is reloaded or refreshed. So great, now we're done with the select element. So let us now move on to a new item, and this will be the checkbox button. So imagine you have a question where the candidate must choose all the answers that applies to them and not just one answer. So you won't be able to use radio buttons because in radio buttons you can only pick one. But if you have a question where candidates can pick 1, 2, or 3 answers, then checkboxes would probably be the better option. So it is very similar to the other input types that I used so far. So let's start writing this. And let's include a paragraph. And let's say select all the languages which you speak proficiently. So here they can pick 0, they can pick all of the options listed. And again, let's make it bold. Font weight, bold. Great. So in order to create these checkboxes, you put input and then type checkbox, and that's it. and then label, Japanese, and then line break. And then let's do this 3 more times. So Japanese, Mandarin, French, and German. And again, let's assume that you know that most of the people who are applying will select Japanese as a proficient language. So you can, again, or let's say Mandarin. So let's say you want this to be automatically checked. So you can just type in checked, and then Mandarin will always be selected. So let's see what that looks like. So here you see Mandarin is checked. If you don't want it selected, you can click out of it and then pick the ones that are applicable to you. So again, you can pick all 4, you can pick 2, you can pick 0. It's up to you. And that is how checkboxes work. So we're done with this, and we're almost done now with our questionnaire. So as you can see, we've already done a considerable amount of work here. So let's move on immediately to the next issue. And this is about writing text. So it's very plausible. You might have to require an open-ended answer from your candidates, such as in motivational questions. So let's create a separate section for this using a heading. So let's call this motivational questions. And let us add a question with a label element. Why do you want a career here? And we can add a line break here to separate it. Let's see what that would look like. Great. So, I have so far taught you to use BR or line break to start a new line. But coding is all about having a lot of options at your disposal. So let's learn a new way to do this. So you can force elements to start a new line by putting them inside div elements. So let's do that this time. Div. And now the next thing we enter will take up a new line. Great. So let us add a text area. So you would type in text area and see what happens. So as you can see, the text area box is there and you can type in your answers. But imagine you want to give your candidates a larger space for them to write. So you can increase the size of this box by using the style attribute, and you can add width of 200 pixels. And then you can add a length or height, style width 200 pixels, and then a height of 200 pixels as well. Now let's see what that would look like. So as you can see, the box gets a lot larger, and that's great. So sometimes in these sorts of job application questions, you tend to get a fun question that they ask candidates. So I will also teach you a fun HTML coding value. So let us again use div to create a new line. And let's add a label called Fun Question. Pick your favorite color. Great. And this is also quite simple. You put input, type, and then color. And that's it. And let's see what happens. So for this fun question, you're able to pick an actual color. So you go on this and then pick whichever color you want. So let's say your favorite color is blue. So you'd pick a blue. And there it is. And this is a very unique and niche piece of code, but it's good to learn interesting things like this as well, just to improve your coding repertoire. And we're almost done now with our questionnaire. And our last few pieces will include numbers. So let's add another div, and let's put a label saying how many positions in the company have you applied for? How many other positions? So let's say there are only 5 other positions here in the company, and you want them to list them, but it can't be more than 5 because there are only 5 positions available. So then you can put a min and a max value. So this, you can put an input and then type, number, and then min if you want a minimum number of other positions, so they have to apply to 2, and then max of 5, and close it. So let's see what happens then. So you can see that they can only apply to 5 places. Great. So that's the number type that we can put in our questionnaire. And now let's add the final few touches. So let's add a CV. So we would type label, add CV, input, type, and this would be file. And after this, we would also want to add a reset and submit button to end our questionnaire. So this would be input, type, reset, input, type, submit. And that's our form completed. So let's look at what the last few pieces would look like. So here you can see add CV. Let's add a couple line breaks between the add CV part. So we can put BR to add a space between there, and now you can add a CV here. So you could include the CV, and that's uploaded. And before we submit, let's say you want to make sure that every application fills in at least one of these text boxes without fail. So you have to ask them to fill in, for example, the password. So let's put a required attribute onto the password. So here, input type password, you would type in required. And now they would not be able to submit the form until that box is filled. So let's watch it, let it refresh, and then let's try and submit it. It's not working for some reason. Let's try this again. Required. Okay, let's try. Okay. Great. So now it's working. The password needs to be filled out in order for this form to be submitted. Awesome. So that is the end of our questionnaire. And unfortunately, we will not be able to process the inputs of people's answers because that requires a server-side language to process the input. However, with just HTML, you're able to create almost any sort of form that will ever be needed on the internet. So well done if you've finished. You've definitely learned a lot if you followed along. You've learned things like field sets, text boxes, placeholders, radio buttons, checkboxes, select options, text area, and so much more. So really, congratulations. I'm very proud of your progress and your achievements so far. Definitely write some comments below on what you've learned and what you've enjoyed so far about this project. So that's it for the first HTML only project and this lesson to create a questionnaire. If you enjoyed this class, please remember to like the video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos from this channel. You will have my eternal gratitude if you do so, and I hope to see you in the next project.